Paint Care is all about keeping it simple for district residents. They make recycling leftover paint easy with convenient locations like your local paint store. Paint Care has 3 simple rules for painting smarter and reducing waste. 1, buy the right amount of paint for the job. 2, use up what's left. And 3, recycle the rest. To learn more or find a paint drop site near you, visit paintcare.org/3simplerules. That's paintcare.org/3simplerules.
If you are a CityCast superfan, you've definitely heard us singing the praises of our longtime supporter, Paulson & Nace. So there's big news. Paulson & Nace is now Nace Law Group. Same great team, just with a new name. When you are hurt by the negligence of others, you want a lawyer that will actually fight for you, not one that will settle for the bare minimum. Nace's compassionate lawyers fight to bring cases to juries, so you can get everything you deserve. If you have been hurt or lost a loved one because of someone else's mistake or negligence, call Nace Law Group for a no-obligation consultation. Visit www.washingtondcinjurylawyers.com or call 202-463-1999. Today on CityCast DC, it's our Friday News Roundup. We are talking about the logistics and the symbolism of this weekend's military parade. We're talking about the latest twist in the Eleanor Holmes Norton story and the mystery of the abandoned casket. Plus, in our members-only 4th topic, the scene at the Kennedy Center this week when Donald Trump went to see Les Mis. I'm here with Axios' Junaid Dill and my CityCast colleague, Annie Reese. Today is Friday the 13th, Friday, June 13th. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC is talking about. Hey, Junaid.
Hello, my friend.
And hey, Annie.
Hello.
Everybody. Annie is our new executive producer in DC.
Woo-hoo.
And this is her debut, her maiden appearance on the Friday News Roundup. It's awesome to have you here.
Thank you. I'm pumped.
We're going to haze the hell out of you.
Oh, no. I'm not excited. I'm leaving.
So wait, Junaid, I saw you this week at a briefing about the military parade. You've been covering it. It is Saturday. The forecast calls for brutal humidity. I don't know what the political forecast calls for, but tell us what just as Washingtonians, what we're in store for.
It's a rain or shine event, but this is the big parade that President Trump has wanted for many, many, many years, and he's going to get it on the 79th birthday, which is also the Army's 250th birthday. And this is now kind of seems like it's blossomed into even bigger of a military force. There are going to be 7,000 troops parading, looks like sort of 100 plus military vehicles. Some of these are rolling through DC streets. People have spotted them on big trucks coming through, their neighborhoods and everything. And a lot of people find them kind of menacing and not so great looking, and they're in a random neighborhood. And they're going to roll down Constitution Avenue. It's a whole spectacle. So around 8:30-ish, we're expecting a parachute jump down to the ellipse where President Trump will have a big stand with his VIPs. Trump will be presented a U.S. flag from these parachuters, and he will then administer the oath for 250 Army members who are re-enlisting, followed by a fireworks ceremony, which I'm saying all this, it's a rain or shine event, but it could get interrupted by some of this, or rather it could be dampened by this rain because of just the fireworks show alone will not look so great if it's overcast skies. So kind of touch and go to the last minute to see how, how well they can pull this off, but they're going to get a lot of people going to this event. I believe over 100,000 people is what they're anticipating.
It's weird. This city, our country, there is no shortage of celebrations of the troops, right? We have F-16 flyovers at the Super Bowl. There's like color guards at basketball games, at all kinds of, regular DC events. There's run for the troops. But this kind of military parade where like the president is in the reviewing stand receiving the salutes of the troopers is exceedingly rare. And weirdly, the last one, it was the weekend of my high school graduation. And I remember this because just like now, streets were going to be closed and we had to tell like my grandma who's visiting, come this way, not that way, like that sort of stuff. And this month, it's happening. And my child graduated from high school, which is just to say it's been literally a generation.
That's wild.
That's about where the similarities end. I was really struck there was a security briefing this week, but by the Secret Service and, a whole bunch of different agencies. They've labeled this a national special security event, which is sort of it didn't exist in 1991, but it kind of enables local law enforcement and a bunch of agencies to work more closely together. But they thought there's going to be 18 miles of scale-proof fencing and 17 and a half miles of bike rack barricades. This is largely maybe at 175 magnetometers. This is because the center of the National Mall is going to be this whole military demonstration, not like protest demonstration, but where you can see planes and rub elbows with soldiers and watch this fitness challenge. There is sort of a kind of public festival part in addition to the parade, but the kind of security mood, it really reflects a lot of the way the world has changed. The good old-fashioned fear of terrorism, as well as this is all taking place against the backdrop of military being deployed in Los Angeles, concerns about the health of democracy, this protest that's not just we don't like war, which was the kind of rather feeble protest in 1991 where people who didn't approve of the Iraq War, the Gulf War that they were celebrating, but protests sort of in the name of, they call it no kings, against authoritarianism, much more tense environment, which Trump escalated by saying if people, if there's protesters trying to disrupt, they're going to be met with huge force.
Right. Which is why I think the No Kings organization also said that they weren't planning a protest in the district. I think they really didn't want to necessarily invite that. I think there are protests happening in Maryland and Virginia, but I think there isn't going to be an organized one, at least near the mall, from what I have read.
Yeah, that's right. There are a few other organized small events and not downtown, but they avoided DC proper. They said they don't want to create any sort of conflict that would give President Trump sort of a reason to hit back at them. And so they are protesting all over the nation. And they expect it to be the biggest single day of protests against the administration since its second term. But yes, I mean, it's to go back, it's a big security day. From the morning to the parade, there's a whole army festivities at the National Mall. There will be lots of road closures starting Friday midnight to Monday 6 a.m. A lot of streets downtown will be closed and restricted. I believe the Smithsonian station on the National Mall will be closed for security. The Independence Avenue station entrance remains open. There's tons of metro delays that you'd want to look online to see what's exactly impacted on your routes.
And it's full activation for the Metropolitan Police and the Park Police, which controls that Constitution Avenue and the mall. So this is a big. There's just a lot of brass being involved, not just the military who are parading.
Yeah. Can I ask? Do you know how many? We talked about the Army's estimated number for attendance, but do we have a sense of how many hotels are booked? What's your sense from your reporting of how full this thing is likely to be?
That's a good question. The comparison was for other events, say World Pride or inauguration, the city government, the mayor will come out and say, here's kind of what we're seeing. They would tout the hotel numbers or that kind of thing. I haven't seen anything like that. Mike, have you?
The mayor gave sort of a general statement of this is going to be good for tourism, but I've not heard any specific numbers.
Yeah, it's kind of a black box.
Yes. The military brass, they're aware of the criticisms that this is very out of step with the American norm, where we have victory parades when the troops are coming home from some successful war, but this kind of peacetime big parade, this is not really part of our tradition. What they say generally, I mean, I wrote about this week, but what they say is, look, we see this as a big recruitment opportunity. People will go out, they'll see the troops, they'll see they're from communities just like you. The military has struggled periodically with recruitment and retention. So they just see it as sort of a marketing opportunity, and they've got an enormous marketing budget, and this is, they see a big win. What could the problem possibly be? One of the things, the troops get some per diem. So the ones who are coming for the parade or for the logistics of the parade. So the idea is that there'll be a fringe benefit for them. They'll get to see their capital wherever they live. So presumably some of that money gets spent on hot dog vendors and stores and so on who pump up the city's tax base.
It's true. It's a subsidy to the downtown restaurants.
So you're going to be covering it, right?
I will be there. Yep, I will be covering it. Yeah,
all day, 12 hours.
I who knows, but I'll be there in the press seats.
But if I wanted to go down as a civilian and watch the parade, where would I go? And could I do that? It seems like there's very limited numbers of reviewing stands and I guess they're just for like VIPs and insiders. Is there a space that regular people are encouraged to go to watch?
The public has areas to see it. You just have to register online. They do want you to register, and then you have to go through security, of course, but the public is invited to attend. Absolutely.
Wait, so you won't be able to see the parade from a space that you are not able, where you haven't had to go through security? I mean, is the security just for like going to rub elbows with the planes or whatever they're going to park on the mall?
Yeah, people can go online and get tickets, and it starts at 6:30. They're invited to convene along the parade route or view from the Washington Monument grounds. That's what the events.america250.org sign-up page says. So you can RSVP 2 people per phone number per event.
Interesting. I also get the sense, anecdotally, a ton of people are leaving DC in anticipation. I think our producer, Julia, going to the beach. I've got a lot of friends who are going to go for a hike. So I've heard at least that, this is one of those, it's a polarizing enough event, I think, that a lot of the people who are going to be there because they really want to be. And other people, it's sort of getting out of Dodge, as it were.
Yeah, if you want to, escape 19 miles of barricades, downtown traffic, mayhem, and just want to get out of the city, it's a good weekend to do that, I think.
Which probably means, I'm no expert here, but that other things you might want to do in the city that are un-mall related and un-parade related could be much more open than usual.
This is true.
Pro tip.
Or I should say pro hunch, since I don't have any, I was busy graduating from high school in 1991. I have no comparables.
It'll probably feel like those August days, maybe, when DC kind of empties out, except for the downtown region, I guess. But, I think we need to note, too, that Reagan National Airport will be suspending flights Saturday evening. We don't know exactly when, apparently, yet. There's no official window, but there are about 100 flights scheduled around that time when the parade starts at 6:30. So airlines are offering vouchers and waivers, and expect delays if you have people coming in or if you're trying to leave the city that time.
All right. Well, Junaid, please be safe out there. Don't try to scale one of those anti-scale fences.
There'll be rocket launchers and everything else around me.
Do you think Junaid will be so impressed that he signs up, he enlists?
Right. You see me by the Army enlistment booth afterward.
Get ready for DC's most intoxicating theater experience yet. Gala Theater presents the world premiere adaptation of Botiquín de Boleros, an immersive cabaret-style musical that takes audiences on a nostalgic journey through love, breakup, and self-love. You're not just watching, you'll be stepping into the Columbia Heights Bolero Bar, where patrons share stories of broken hearts through boleros spanning from Mexico to the Caribbean to South America. The show runs June 11th to 29th. Tickets are going fast. Find more info and get yours at galatheater.org. That's GALATHEATRE.org. Picture this. You're sipping café au lait at a Parisian sidewalk bistro, effortlessly chatting with locals who are impressed by your French. That fantasy can become your reality when you join the Alliance Française of Washington, D.C. Alliance Française isn't just a language school. It's a whole French cultural experience with exclusive events like wine tastings, film nights, art talks, and more. Summer classes start July 7th. Whether you're a total beginner or practically fluent, they've got courses to make sure you're confident in your French before your next European adventure. Enroll by June 20th, and you'll save $20 on tuition. Just head to francedc.org. That's francedc.org. All right, so Janae, another thing you wrote about this week that has been a subject CityCast focused on, that is increasingly the subject of the entire media, is Eleanor Holmes Norton, DC's 88-year-old member of Congress.
As of today,
As
this
of
is her
today,
birthday, Friday. Yeah.
as she is the oldest member of the House. She has been representing DC since 1990. She won her election in 1990. So she was actually in her first term, the last time there was a military parade. And there's been a sort of a succession of stories with kind of increasingly clear language about whether Norton is diminished by age, whether she's not all there, whether she's not what she used to be. They focus, there's quite clear focus on her sort of physical frailty, mobility issues, et cetera, and then increasing sort of drip, drip, drip about, is she, really sort of able to do the job? And it's not just in a vacuum, because it is at a sort of crucial time in DC's history when the city's autonomy, the city's budget are at risk. The House this week voted on two measures that struck down duly enacted DC laws, one police reforms and one that was allowing non-citizen voting. Norton's basic philosophy has always been, whatever you think of these measures, and some people in DC didn't like, particularly the non-citizen voting, if they are duly passed, Congress has no business striking them down. She's been, not the argument is that if a more effective congressperson, particularly on this budget hole that Congress drilled, would have been able to get ahead of it and stop it from happening. It's a tough comparison to make. I mean, the Norton of old was incredibly effective. On the other hand, this Congress is sort of uniquely hostile to DC. So it's a little bit apples to oranges. And yet, as you wrote, Janae, there's sort of this week sort of felt like a dam breaking.
Yeah, Delegate Norton is known as sort of this, quote, warrior on the Hill. And, for many years, I've been told that's for good reason. She was a very formidable presence. She was someone who you would duck in the hallway if she was mad at you, because she could really unleash some wrath. And that's what you needed to do if you're a non-voting delegate. Your influence came from the relationships and the advocacy you were able to do on the Hill. And she singularly has been able to influence a lot because of who she is and the legacy she had. But now a lot of people are now publicly saying that I think it's her age that is causing her to be much less active, diminished. The Washington Post had a story where 4 DC council members went on the record and said they were concerned about her going for re-election, which
and
this week,
and Donna Brazile, who was her,
and Donna Brazile,
who had, before she was a famous TV figure, was her chief of staff and is her very close friend, and has in the past said, how dare you, suggest that this icon leave the stage? It's her call. Said, she said it nicely. She said, she's done it all. It's time to do something else. But even the people who were being nice, they were saying, we don't want this question to be a distraction. That was all, off the stage.
Yeah, and one of the allies of the mayor, former councilmember Bill Lightfoot, told me in very clear terms, she would win on name recognition, as she's done in recent years. But he said, quote, not because she would run a good campaign, not because she's good on the issues, not because she can give a good stump speech. She can't do any of those things anymore. And that is what a lot of insiders also believe. And her office for a long time had a lot of well-timed floor speeches and press releases every day that kept criticism at bay. But that's changing now. And I mean, look, and you're right, this is at best for one person a singularly very difficult time to bat down the intervention that Republicans are throwing. It would have been a really hard time, regardless. And she's just one person without a vote. But she does get blamed fairly or unfairly because of that budget problem that the House passed without anyone apparently knowing it until it passed. And then suddenly the city had a $1.1 billion cut to make. And they want more from her, someone in her position.
Well, Democrats have so little leverage anyway that I think there is a desire among a lot in the party to see someone maybe more fulsome. And it's part of this political moment, with like President Biden's decline and the degree to which that may or may not have been covered up. We've seen a lot of examples of older senators and, the people who are sort of clinging on to power well into their 80s and 90s.
Right. And in fact, in the Post story this week, so there was a story in Washingtonian a few months ago. We had Ike Allen on with Bridget on the pod. There was a story in Mother Jones by my old Washington City paper colleague, Stephanie Mensimer, that was pretty brutal and had some very kind of galling examples of Norton's sort of low presence. And then a Post story just a week ago. And in that story, DC council member Brooke Pinto said she'd read the Jake Tapper, Alex Thompson book about Biden's decline and said to herself, she claims, I need to, if ever I'm in a situation like this and there's someone around me, I need to speak up even if it's difficult. And that's what she cited as her reasoning. I think it's also kind of amazing that why didn't we hear stories like this before the last election? It was just a year ago.
Also, retirement sounds great.
Well, right. Especially when you're in the minority in the House. That's a great time to. But, I think there probably at the end of this needs to be a little bit of a local DC media. What happened here? I wrote a column in Politico earlier this year about Kay Granger, the congresswoman from Fort Worth, and how she was literally living in a assisted living facility that had a dementia wing and was not showing up for votes in Congress, and no one on none of the Hill reporters noticed. It's very easy because there's not the sort of local reporters on the Hill anymore from regional papers. It's very easy if someone is no longer in leadership to sort of not notice if they're not there. And that was ultimately caught by a local outlet in Fort Worth, as it happens, a very conservative one that his leader had run against her from the right, but that's who caught it. So in the case of Norton, I think there probably needs to be a local media sort of conversation here of how did this persist? Why was it so hard to sort of everyone knew, but no one said? Age is a really tricky thing. And us reporters, we trade in sort of verifiable things. And when people are uncomfortable saying things out loud and when medical records are trapped behind privacy laws, it's pretty hard to just be able to write something unless you have some actual incident where somebody was publicly out to lunch, which there has not been very many of.
Yeah, it's a really tricky thing. I think it's going to be really interesting. Like you were saying with the dam starting to break, it'll be really interesting to see how it continues to develop in the next few weeks. What
happened this week was my political colleague, Nick Wu, and another reporter ran into her. These people cover Congress, and as one does covering Congress, they were like, "Hey, Congresswoman," and they asked her about whatever was, on the plate. And they asked, "Are you going to run again?" Because that's been a story. And she said, "Yeah, I don't see why not," or something. And they asked, "Do you think the speaker needs to bring the DC bills up?" And she said, "No." Kind of a shocking thing. And, her office walked this back and said she misheard them, and then said, well, she's still in conversations about running again. But it's just a kind of, these interactions happen multiple times a day on the Hill. People mishear things all the time. There's sort of any one incident like this can be sort of dismissed or thought of as well, that happens. But, it was sort of another drip, drip, drip.
Yeah. The totality of them is.
Yeah. And the politics of this, if I can just say that this election next year could draw many people to run if she doesn't run for re-election. And you bet several council members could make a swing at this. For some of them, they won't have to give up their seat. So it's a free swing at the seat. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's why some of them are speaking up now, because of the realization that this election will be coming up soon.
Well, it's a tricky thing, because up to now, the incentive with all these people who want to take the job, they just didn't want to be seen as the person who stuck the knife in order to free up the seat. But maybe now, because of this conversation about age and everything, the equation is changing so that there actually might be an upside to being seen as the person who stuck the knife in.
That's a great point.
I guess we'll see.
We'll see.
dining out as much as I do? Then you need to check out the In Kind app. With In Kind, you can find the best restaurants, bars, and cafes right here in DC and all across the country. And get this, every time you dine out, you earn 20% back in dining credits to use for next time. That's right, you're getting rewarded just for eating at amazing places. The best part, it's completely free to download and create an account. And when you're ready to pay your bill, just do it right through the app. It's super easy to use, and it's a total no-brainer. Because you're a CityCast listener, we've got an exclusive deal just for you. $25 off your bill of $50 or more, redeemable at any location on the In Kind app. Just head to inkind.vip/DC. That's inkind.vip/DC.
You don't need to use an oversized AI model for everything, just like you don't need to use an axe to slice a cake. Find out how smaller models can deliver the right results and help cut AI costs up to 90% at IBM.com. The AI built for business. IBM.
Hey, so Annie, you have been obsessed this week, and I love a good mystery, with the story of the abandoned casket.
Oh, yes. I'm here to provide a little bit of levity.
Nothing says levity like an abandoned casket.
That's, yeah, especially if you're a fan of gallows humor. So the case of the empty casket. May 29th in Prince George's County Council member Calvin Hawkins posted to his Facebook page to say that there had been this abandoned casket on the side of the road. People were kind of calling in. It was sort of like peak, local news. We picked it up on our newsletter. It was bizarre, and he posted on his Facebook page and then was flabbergasted when a woman reached out. So keep in mind, we're in PG County. This is where this was discovered. A woman who lives in an apartment building in Navy Yard, some 17 miles away, had recognized the casket and said it was the same one that had been at her apartment building. The management company had sent this really cryptic email that was like, we found a casket in a room. If it's in the loading dock, we're going to dispose of it. If you're distressed by this, please don't visit. What I love about her is that she immediately went down, took photos of it, opened it, saw it was satin lined and contained a Bible.
But not a body.
But not a body. Then it goes away. It gets disposed of, whatever that means. And then she sees it again because of this Facebook post and says, and I quote, "Wait a minute, you guys, that's our casket. We call it our casket." So anyway, the questions. How did the casket get from Navy Yard to PG County? Again, that's not a short distance. Why was it there? WUSA 9 had reached out to this apartment building asking more questions. There are, I will admit, still a lot more questions than answers.
But so it was in it that the management had found it in an apartment. So I guess somebody had
they'd found it in an empty apartment. They'd moved out.
Same way you might leave behind a broken chair.
Yeah, you leave behind a, 200+ pound casket. Those things are heavy. And these poor people had to, I guess, carry it down to the loading dock where it was then removed in another form and then found in PG County. So I still want to know a lot of information. If anyone here, anyone listening has additional details, I think we should write a mystery. I'm a big fan of Agatha Christie, and we've got a hot one on our hands, folks.
What did PG County do with the casket upon its discovery?
My understanding, there's been a lot of euphemistic language, but things like, quote, dispose of.
Because no joke, like caskets are really expensive, and like really funerals are expensive. So somebody and I think there's probably a lot of people without a lot of resources who would be all too happy to not have to pay for the casket of their loved one's funeral.
This is a great question. I'm going to try to run it down, and maybe we can do an update at a later date.
I mean, some people are into buying thrift clothes, maybe thrift caskets.
Can you buy a casket on Facebook Marketplace? I
think you can buy anything on Facebook Marketplace.
I'm still stuck on how she went and just opened it. I don't think you're supposed to open caskets. I feel like you're just not supposed to open caskets.
What's supposed to? Do you mean like vibes-wise? It's like
yes,
bad karma?
Vibes-wise. Bad karma.
I mean, in movies, I would say there's a 100% rate of not good things being discovered when you open a casket.
I'm not opening any caskets anytime soon.
I think I might have. Okay, picked broad daylight. Maybe you're with a friend and you're kind of like unearthing a mystery. I might have done it.
I think this could be the beginning of a CityCast mystery series.
Yeah. The case of the missing casket.
All right, so today, paid subscribers get a bonus 4th Roundup chat. We're going to talk about Trump's night at the Kennedy Center. If you want to be sure to always get the full episode, please become a member. Head to membership.citycast.fm and sign up. It's only $10 a month, and members get ad-free listening, exclusive members events, and an extra events newsletter every week. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm. And that's all for today here on CityCast DC. Our production team this week was Annie Reese, Julia Karen, and Ash Durbin. Newsletter editors Kayla Cote-Stemmerman and Natalia Aldana wrote our fabulous newsletter, Hey DC, this week. And our hosts are Bridget Todd and me, Michael Schaefer from Politico. Music is by Alex Roldan, with additional music from Todd Meller, Sergei Ignatov, Seja Gentil, Philip Ayers, and Rue Walker from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. If you enjoyed the show, tell everyone about it at the parade. That'll be hundreds of thousands of new potential CityCast listeners. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye.